All right, so what we're doing is we are drawing and shading cones and then looking up real objects from the internet to draw from observation. So we're drawing from two-dimensional pictures on the internet first, and then the next step will be to learn to draw from three-dimensional objects in real life. But this is a really great first step. So what we're going to do is look at a real, not a cartoon ice cream cone, not a clip art one, but a photograph of one so that we have real details and we are observing what we're looking at. So here we go. We have at the top of the cone, you can see, is that a circle or an oval? Oval, right? And it's a pretty thin little oval, so we're just going to do a little oval. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we can kind of figure out how tall it is. I feel like it's about this tall. I can always adjust it. But it's basically a tall, thin cone. And I feel like that is sort of good, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. And just so it shows up better, I'm going to make it just a little bit darker. But I don't want a harsh outline. But right now we're just trying to lay out the basic lines. And it's not really pointy on the bottom. It's a tiny bit curved. Okay. So then there's the part where the cone wrapped around itself, but it's not a super straight line. It starts up here and it ends all the way down here. Do you see how it ends on the point? So it comes out, it curves, it comes around, and then it comes back down to the point, kind of like that. Do you guys see that? Okay. So now at the top of the cone, do you see how you can see the flat part of the width of the cone? So at the top in the back, you really can't see that line very much, kind of like the cup that we drew. But in the front, we can see the ledge of it. Like if we were really tiny, we could sit on that ledge. So it curves around. It's not very big, but it is enough to make it help it look 3D. So do you see how that makes it look just a little bit more 3D to have that little extra lip on there? Now we have to look at the lines on it and the waffle parts. And it's called a waffle because it's made in a waffle iron, for real. You know, the sugar cone is too. So they're not straight lines. Do you see how the lines on them curve a little bit? Do you guys know why they curve instead of be straight? Right, because they're curving around a cone, right? So I'm going to sort of pick one of the middle ones. And it starts here, and it ends up here, so that's going to kind of be a frame of reference for me. And then I'm going to work my way down and up. So here, it starts here, but it doesn't stay even. It kind of gets smaller as it goes to the top because of the way that it curves. And that's about all I can fit there. This one kind of comes straight and then curves up. And this one here kind of does like a little tiny bit of an S. It curves this way and this way. Here, this one curves here. And then here, these are not going to line up with those because they're going in a different direction where they wrap around. So this one comes here. This one comes here. And I'm doing these light because in the end, we're going to actually make the little squares inside. And then we got to go the other way. To make it easy for myself, I'm going to turn my paper because it's going to curve this way. So now, if it starts here, so then this, so really do look kind of where those lines start and stop, and that will help you. And these lines get a little bit sort of longer as they go because of whatever is going on with the way that they curve. And then here, I only really see one line kind of going right here. All right, so you can already kind of see that it's looking sort of 3D, right? Now, Are they really lines, or are they really, those are really the raised parts in between the squares? So, what, after I have those lines, then I gotta actually draw the squares inside. The little indents. And you remember why I said they're darker? They're burnt, yeah, they're burnt from the heat, yep. So it's like, kind of like when we were doing our letters, and you'll really see that everything that we do builds on it. So some of the things you learn from making letters will be similar. So like starting with a letter and then building it out a little bit is the same way as starting with this. I can't really see it, but there could be a scenario where one of these would kind of bump out a little bit from the edge. I might just do it just because I think that would look good. When you're doing the little squares, make them, they're little, but they're kind of big. They're creating those lines with the squares. So your squares kind of come out pretty far. They should look lined up and actually just be creating that waffle pattern. So the reason we did the lines first was just to get it kind of worked out where everything goes. Okay, what do you guys think of that part? I can see the squares on the little flap here, this little folded part, but they're not as deep. Do you guys see that? So I'm not going to draw them the same because they don't look the same. So here I can see the edge of this square, but it kind of runs off because it's thinner there where it got rolled. So if you don't see the whole square, just draw the part that you do see. So do you see how on this one I'm really only seeing one corner of the square? So that's all I'm really drawing. I'm not doing the whole thing. They're more like little, and I'll shade those in later, but that's gonna help it look really good. And then I can't see this square here, so I'm not gonna draw it. So just draw what you actually see. And here I really just see a little line. I don't really see a square at all. So this is part of the observation of just drawing what you see. Let's see. This one I can see. So do you see how on this part here I am not doing the whole square? I'm just doing the part that I can see. The part that actually did get burnt by the machine. The waffle iron. And sometimes, like, we want to make sense of things, so sometimes we want to draw it even though it's not really there. But if it's not there, it's not there. And then I am going to shade in these parts, but I am going to do the shadow where the little flap touches, because that's going to help it look 3D too. But I'm not just doing a straight line. I'm looking at really what is the shadow where it's like a, you remember the contact shadows we were talking about before? This is basically almost a contact shadow that it's creating where it touches the other one. So it's just casting a tiny, tiny shadow. And it's kind of irregular. Do you see how that shadow starts to help it pop out? But now I gotta add more shadow. So now I'm going to go in, but I'm not just coloring them in. I'm paying attention. Some parts of the shadows are dark and some parts are light. So this one here, it's pretty dark in the center, so I will make that all one. This one here is darker on one side, and it gets lighter. I will probably be speeding some of this up on the video. Just putting more pressure where the shadow's darker. A lot of these are darker on the bottom and then they fade up inside the square. One thing I think you can get out of a class like this, even if you end up not continuing to draw in your life, although you will be able to if you want to, is an appreciation of how long things take. Like if you see someone that did a cool drawing, you will have a pretty good understanding of how long it took them. You know what I mean? And I'm going to adjust these later, but this will give me a kind of starting point. And then they don't have very much darkness on the side. So I'll adjust those more, and I also will do an overall shading like I do with a regular cone. So can you guys see which side of this cone is darker on the picture? Yeah, the top left. So then I would also do just like a little bit of shading overall on that too, in addition to because we want the whole thing to look 3D, not just the little holes. And it gets lighter on this side. And since I always, like I say, drawing is a series of adjustments, I'll probably go in and do more touch-ups, but I want to get... Now, where is the shadow on the inside? On the right side, right? Which makes sense, because if the shadow is dark here on the left-hand side, it's because the light is shining this way, and the light can't get inside it there, so that's why it's darker there, just like with our cup. Except for this has more direct light. So it's going to be darkest here. And then it's going to fade to light. Maybe about right here. I'm going to turn it this way so I can get a nice sharp edge with my shadow. Fade it up. There's a little bit of a shadow on the top of this edge over here. Do you see how there's just a tiny shadow on the top of the edge of this? On that side? I also realized there's actually a little flat edge, like a little rim around the top that I didn't draw. So, I mean, I kind of did, but I just want to emphasize it a little bit more. this in just a little bit. There, that looks better with the little top ridge, doesn't it? And then that's a little bit wobbly. Do you see anything else I need to work on this? I feel pretty good about it. I think maybe a little bit of shadow at the bottom right here. Yeah, I think that'll help it look 3D. And I think I'm going to make this a little less pointy even still. There. Should I end the video? Okay, and there we have a successfully recorded demonstration by yours truly of a cone. And just kind of to review, I did sort of the basic outline like we did when we did our cone, but this time we looked at the lines that were on it. We didn't just say, oh, it's a grid and draw a grid. We looked at the ones that were really there and the fact that they curve and that they're not straight. And then we looked at the squares, shaded those in, did an overall shading, and then touched up with details. And so that's a good way to approach it. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day.